Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Kate Wingrove, and I'm the Training and Development Director with Toastmasters International. Thank you all so much for joining us today. This is the final webinar of our three-part series, Thriving During Social Distancing. I have a little bit of housekeeping information before we jump into the content of our webinar. There is a question and answer feature in Zoom, and you may use this feature to submit your questions throughout the webinar. So don't feel like you need to hold on to any questions along the way. You can type them into that question and answer feature, and we will do our best to address those questions. With so many attendees, though, on our webinar, we may not be able to answer everybody's questions today. We'll do the best we can, but we thank you in advance for your patience with this. We will also have some time at the end of the webinar where we may address your question out loud, so be prepared for that. Please note that we will only be addressing questions that are specific to or focused on the topic of this webinar, and we will not be able to address any member, club, or district-specific questions. You'll also notice that there is a chat feature in this webinar, and you are more than welcome to use that feature to talk with one another during the webinar, and I can see that some of you are already starting to use it. Our team will be specifically focusing on answering questions in that Q&A feature as opposed to in the chat feature, so please know that we will not be monitoring or looking for questions there. We do ask that if you do use the chat feature, please always be polite and courteous to your fellow attendees. We are recording this webinar, and we will be sending out a link to the recording of the webinar in a follow-up email. Our goal is to have these emails sent out next week, but if you do not receive the email, please feel free to contact us at training@toastmasters.org. I'd like to begin our webinar with a small icebreaker activity. Now, we are in a rapidly changing world right now, and I've noticed personally, it's very important for me to still make an effort to stay connected with others and to stay engaged in spite of social, or in some cases, what we like to call physical distancing, since we're still trying to socialize, but we just can't physically be together. So what I'd like to ask you to do is in that chat feature, go ahead and type your answer to the following question. And the question is, how are you staying connected right now? How are you staying connected right now? Lots of Zooming, telephone, FaceTime, WebEx, lots of phone calls in there, Facebook. Things are going so much faster than I can even manage to keep up with. I saw some Instagram, different types of social media in there, Microsoft Teams, Blue Jeans, actually writing letters to one another. We're relying a lot on technology to allow us to engage with one another right now. We're keeping in touch with our colleagues. We're doing video conferencing. We're text messaging with one another. We're actually picking up the phone and calling one another. Facebook Messenger. Maybe we're using different types of methods for different people in our lives. Fantastic. Love seeing all the different ways that we're connecting. Driveway parties. I love that. So we're still socializing and maintaining the physical distancing. Fantastic. Thank you all so much for participating in our Icebreaker activity. Our goal by the end of this webinar is to give all of us some more best practices and ideas for how we can stay engaged and thrive during social or physical distancing. We have a wonderful group of people on our webinar with us today. So we have a fantastic moderator and several fantastic panelists. Our moderator is Piotr Chimko. And Piotr has been a Toastmaster since 2009. He's a member of Phillips Lodz Toastmasters, and he's the immediate past district director of District 108, which covers 5 countries in Northeastern Europe. In 2015, he actually came 3rd in the district finals of the German Humorous Speech Contest. And what's particularly humorous about this is that Piotr doesn't actually speak German at all. quite a talent there. He is a member of the Polish Professional Speakers Association. In his professional life, he is an expert in financial controlling and process management. And in his private life, he is a happy husband and the father of 3 wonderful boys. He does like to run, swim, and bike, and he dreams about being an Ironman one day. So with that, please welcome our panel moderator, Piotr Chimko, and I'll also ask our panelists, Clarice Kresser, Talha bin Hamid, and Adrian Lane to turn their cameras on as well.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Kate, for a wonderful introduction. I'm really happy and honored to run this panel for you. I know we have a quite large audience, and it's particularly interesting to meet online these days, which kind of contradicts the idea that social distancing exists. Actually, it exists, but we turn it into a positive. Well, for me, I'm a particularly, I would say, extreme extrovert. And for me, it was really in the beginning, it was really difficult to stay within my 4 walls, at home. But as time went by, I quickly realized that it brings also many chances and opportunities. When life throws lemon at me, I make a lemonade. And I think we are going to discuss a little bit more about that, about lemons and how to make a lemonade out of it, how to make our life better in hard times, in these difficult times of social distancing. And the first presenter on that topic is Clarice Kresser. Clarice is representing Region 2 in District 33, located in California, United States. She has been a Toastmaster for over 5 years and has served in various club roles, club officer positions, including president and vice president education for several terms for 4 clubs. She has also served as an area and division director. Clarice is currently serving as club growth director and is program quality director-elect for next term. Professionally, Clarice has over 25 years of experience in the non-profit sector in the areas of staff management, strategic partnership, and program planning, development, implementation, and evaluation. For over 17 years, she has worked with a non-profit education organization, Project Grad Los Angeles, where she is currently serving as Vice President and Director of Strategic Partnerships. Today, Clarice will be speaking on holding online club meetings and sharing what District 33 has done during COVID-19. Please welcome distinguished Toastmaster, Clarice Kresser.
Thank you so much, Piotr. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my fellow Toastmasters from around the world. Albert Einstein once said, "In the midst of challenges or difficulties, there are opportunities." 9 weeks ago, and during these challenging times, our lives have changed drastically. Before that, I can tell you my routine has changed. Before COVID-19, my routine consisted of a 120-mile round-trip commute to work, which usually took 3 hours. By the time I got home, I had to cook. I was cooking dinner. I would spend my weekends spending some time with some family and friends and going out to dinner. And not to forget, my either depending on the time of day, I would start off my day with an early morning Toastmaster meeting, would end my evening with a Toastmaster meeting, or start my weekend with a Toastmaster meeting. I would also go to the store, just with my shopping cart into the market, just routinely put in all of the things I needed: toilet paper, bread, milk, soda, whatever it is, cat food, dog food, and just go into the cashier and just pay and then head home and unpack. When COVID-19 hit, all of that changed. I'm now working from home like millions of other people. I barely put 60 miles on my car for the last 9 weeks. And now when I go to the store, I'm going through markets and I can barely find toilet paper or even some of the right kind of cat food or dog food. So life has drastically changed. And it brought me to a little bit of a depression. Now, what happened was I realized that there was something that was missing in my life. And what was missing was, in these times in social distancing, really is physical distancing. And what I was missing was one thing, and even the routine. And one of those routines for me was a Toastmaster meeting. I was not meeting, and millions of other people. But when I started to have those meetings, I started to realize that there was my routine and my outlook on everything, even though things externally haven't changed, has actually made me feel much better and a little bit more anchored in all of this chaos. Now, during today, what I would like to share with you is some best practices on how my district, District 33 in California, has actually done in terms of getting more members and helping during these times of social distancing and chaos on how to hold online meetings and bringing back what I call the magic of Toastmasters. What I'd like to cover are really the tips that cover into two categories. The first is preparation. In this new format of online, all of our clubs in our district, I believe in all over the world, are predominantly using Zoom. So going from a physical meeting to an online platform requires extra preparation. What we've learned, and even as a president trying to get our clubs online, you need to have, what's really helpful is having at least one or two, what we call tech people or a tech person. That is either one or two individuals within your club that is fairly knowledgeable about the platform of Zoom. That is really important to be able to have that person online to be able to assist members getting on. The other is you want to assess your own members' capabilities for technology. What kind of computers do they have or devices? Do they have laptops that have internet access? Do they have computers that have a webcam? How is their internet capability? Do they have consistent internet? Knowing that ahead of time before you launch an online meeting is very important so that you can better prepare your members for the needed support so that once they go online, that it doesn't become a struggle for them. The other is incorporate an orientation to Zoom. We found that having time devoted maybe before the meeting to orient members that are not familiar with Zoom to even get online and practice certain things so that they know how to navigate, know how to do certain things like unmute themselves, turn on and off their video, do things like pinning someone like the timer so that they can see that timer. The other is, once you have that orientation, then you are most likely apt to have a more successful and a less stressful meeting once everyone gets on. The other part of preparation is when we're in a physical meeting, it's very easy to be able to adjust to last minute changes. Meaning if you have a speaker that is no longer speaking, you have a change in evaluators, have those forms that you need distributed to everyone ahead of time and do that accordingly so that people have that. Use the feature of the chat box. I found that very helpful, or we found that very helpful, to be able to send or to include a needed evaluation form or any of the functionary role forms handy that people can download during the meeting. The other is feedback is really important, and being able to allocate a portion of your meeting time to be able to assess from members what went well for the meeting, what didn't go so well, and what could we do differently for the next meeting. You can incorporate that as part of the general evaluation report and maybe incorporate like a couple minutes for people to suggest ideas and then take those ideas to be able to incorporate for the next meeting. The second category has to do with our club mission, which is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience for our members. And in an online platform, it's in particular very important to be able to do that because we have members who are not maybe necessarily have the knowledge and comfort level for different technology. So you want to be able to create that type of environment. So once they get on, they're not going to have, for those that have been hesitant, to be able to say, well, it was so disorganized, and they start to feel uncomfortable in a meeting. It just gives them a reason why this is not working, and you may lose them. So do things like the social time. Many of our clubs take advantage of like log on about 30 minutes or even 45 minutes before. We have some clubs that meet an hour before when we were back in physical meetings, just to have things like dinner before they actually had a meeting. So in a Zoom meeting, they replaced that with social time for them just to log on, chit chat, and catch up with people on what the latest news are. And then they start to transition into the meeting. The other is find opportunities to use the technology to your advantage, to create those fun and interactive meetings. One of the things that you could use in place of reading an inspiration or a quote, play a short video from YouTube that is just as inspiring for a couple minutes. The other is take advantage of the noise and sounds that you have. In my club, we typically do a drum roll on the table when we're announcing the best speaker or the best table topics speaker. So you don't really have it. You have like the visual on a Zoom meeting, but take advantage of some sounds, special effects from that you can download. The other is some have fun. I've been in a meeting where they play before they announce the best speaker, they play the theme from Rocky before they announce the best speaker. So take advantage of the technology. Use the virtual backgrounds to create some fun and very creative things. The other is for table topics and for meeting themes, try to avoid COVID-19 themes. Everyone is already, we're living this on a day-to-day basis. Allow opportunities in the meeting for people to talk about something else. One of my clubs had a theme for pets. So we all brought our pets, whether they were real or animals, and we showed our pets during the meeting. The others picked fun table topics that just infuse the fun, something that's different. The other is take advantage of the evaluation and feedback. One of my clubs, or several of my clubs, use what we call love notes. And what those are is feedback to individual speakers. I'm not talking about the evaluations from speaker evaluations. I'm talking about individual feedback from members to a speaker or to a table topics master or to a general evaluator or to a Toastmaster to give some positive feedback and love notes, something positive that they did. You could use the chat feature in the chat box and address a personal note, a private message to that person to send that. Do that and incorporate that. The other is stay attuned to your members' needs. When we have the video, you can visually see people. And if you notice, for example, someone who doesn't seem like very vibrant when they're normally vibrant or excited, stay attuned to that. You may have members who may be visually impaired, or who may have some technology restrictions where they can't see a timer. They may be connected by phone. Be attuned to make special, allowances. Instead of flashing a red and a colored timer card, for example, for those that cannot see what a timer card on their computer, have the timer maybe verbally say red, yellow, or green for the time. And that, again, is staying attuned to what members are going through. The other is take advantage of promoting. So wonderful, promoting your club and having other club members join in as guests. Having people join in as guests, and I know most of us are doing that. What that does is it adds another layer of fun and excitement. When you're used to speaking in front of club members all the time, adding someone who is different will actually add some uniqueness and fun from having a speaker from India or England or from the UK. Now, in California, we're in our 9th week of staying under stay-at-home orders. And as of today, we are now easing off the loosening of those orders. So we know that sometime, things are going to come back to somewhat new normal, but at least we'll be able to see each other. And so what I'm so looking forward to is the opportunity to be able to go into a physical meeting, to be able to see my Toastmaster family, and to be able to see their smiling faces, be able to hear their claps, and to be able to shake their hand or my Toastmaster hand if I'm going to receive an actual ribbon. And I may not actually shake my hand, I may be doing maybe a dance hump. But what I'm looking forward to are those opportunities to be able to not only appreciate the new kinds of things that I used to wasn't really noticing, but also taking advantage of the new opportunities and new things that now with this virtual and stay at home situation has brought to us new opportunities to now reimagine what the Toastmaster program and what the Toastmaster magic can actually bring back to not only my life, but also back to our club members and to all of us. Thank you. Back to you, Piotr.
Thank you, Clarice. So many tips, so many tricks, so many ideas how we can make our life, Toastmaster life, better and more valuable and more fruity in such short time, in just a few minutes. Thank you very much, Clarice. What strikes me after your speech is that actually how fast we learn and adjust when it becomes necessary. 10 weeks ago, we wouldn't be speaking about all those things, right? My question is, why wouldn't we use this knowledge to learn and adjust fast, even if it's not necessary? Well, in any case, whether you are forced to adjust or not, Toastmasters is the place to try out new things, like today, like 10 weeks ago, or like in 2 weeks from now. And the next speaker of today will be speaking about the benefits of Toastmasters during social distancing. Let me introduce Talha bin Hamid. He joined Toastmasters in June 2016 and attained DTM in July 2019. By profession, he's a chartered accountant currently associated with a non-for-profit entity running one of the world's largest networks of schools for underprivileged areas. He is 41 and the father of 3 girls and a boy. He lives in Karachi in Pakistan. His home club is Karachi Toastmasters Club. He serves as Club Growth Director of District 122, as well as on ExCom of 3 clubs. He likes reading, speaking, movies, photography, graphic designing, gaming, tinkering with tech, and probably so many other things. He is also a professional writer and a blogger, as well as a very amateur, as he says, very amateur poet. The benefits of Toastmasters during social distancing. Help me welcome Talha bin Hamid.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to wherever you are, and have a great, whatever time zone you're in, because we have people all around the world. I hope you're all happy and healthy, and so are your loved ones. Let me take you back to a time where mankind roamed the earth. We were all over the place. We were in malls, in parks, in cinemas, in restaurants. We weren't stuck in traffic, we were the traffic. And cast your minds back. Did we love the world back then? Not exactly. So what has changed? Someone talked about making lemonade, and I am a strict believer in that. We should see the positives in every situation. See, yes, we can't go out. We don't have traffic. We don't have gridlock. We don't have commutes. We don't have disputes. We don't have theft. We don't have street crime. And as far as Toastmasters is concerned, for most of us, it was the best thing that ever happened to us in our lives, and it still remains so. It was beneficial before, it can be even more beneficial now. And let me tell you why. Because we can talk all we want about being communicators, leaders, successful, climbing up the corporate ladder, but there is one very undersold attribute of Toastmasters, and that is that it makes you a far better human being. We all remember when we walk into our first club, right? We see everyone so polite, so kind, and we are forced to act that way. We are forced to suppress our baser instincts because we would look bad. And 6 to 8 months later, guess what? We discover that they have become our traits. We have grown softer, we have grown kinder, we have grown more tolerant towards each other. And yes, it translates into real life as well. It translates into our workplaces, it translates into our families. Toastmasters gives us power of words. And with great power comes what? great responsibility, because it is very easy to say, you suck at that. But it takes a Toastmaster to say, here's how you can improve it. It is very easy to say, go away, don't waste my time. It takes a Toastmaster to say, perhaps this is not the right time. It's very easy to say, forget about it. It takes a Toastmaster to say, perhaps there's a better way of doing it. And that is the power of words. We talk about communication and leadership. In my 4 years as Toastmasters, what I've learned is that leadership is not about leadership at all. As a leader, you uplift your team. And for that, you have to be at the bottom. In order to serve, you have to be at the bottom. You can forget about delusions of grandeur, because yes, that will make you a dictator, that will make you a tyrant, but that won't make you a leader. You cannot be a leader if the people who follow you actually hate you or are scared of you. Let's talk about communication. We are all trained to be great communicators, but what is communication all about? Communication is about forgetting ourselves. Communication is about connecting to your audience. Communication is about forgetting your skills, your aspirations, your desires, and getting into the minds of your audience and trying to find out what they want to hear. And only then you can really connect. And another thing, we are obsessed with success. Success. What is success? Success is not a single point in space and time. Success is a continuum. Success is a journey. And every Toastmaster knows that every project you deliver, every meeting you attend, every evaluation you give, every time you win the best table topic speaker, yes, that is success. And nothing can take that away from you, and nothing can lessen it for you. And that's what Toastmasters teaches us, to enjoy every meeting and to enjoy the little things, because the little things make up our lives much more than the bigger things. And sometimes we forget about the little things in order to get to the bigger things. And we can put Toastmasters skills to the test because we are stuck with our families and our loved ones. Who would have thought that we would be stuck with each other for 24 hours a day, stuck with our children, stuck with our parents, stuck with our spouses? And yeah, it's a nightmare for the spouses, let me tell you. But it is up to us to make it less of a nightmare. It is up to us to be more understanding, to exercise our active listening skills. Yes, I know it's very difficult because we have all sorts of skills when we walk into a Toastmasters meeting. But somehow, when we are in a real life scenario, especially in our homes, all that goes away. This is the perfect time to actually instill those skills into traits and actually exercise those as real life skills and actually let our families benefit from those skills. Just glancing at what we were able to do in District 122 ever since this lockdown started, we conducted joint meetings with 2 clubs that were thousands of miles away. We allowed 2 contestants from the other part of the world to hone their speech skills and to exercise their speech before a widely different audience. We also, one of our Toastmasters, as a part of his high performance leadership, and he's listening right now, big shout out to him, he actually held a webinar on autism and how it affects us and how we can help autistic people. And that raised the awareness of autism throughout our Toastmasters community tenfold. Imagine suddenly that awareness coming into a large section of the community, which is already inclined towards helping humankind in all sorts of pursuits. So that is just one sample. We are a large country and most of it is rural. Most areas are very hard to physically reach. Not hard per se, but they are very expensive to travel to. And consequently, there are large swaths of population which have never experienced Toastmasters. And right now, we are in the process of chartering an online-only Toastmasters club that is catered specifically to those people who cannot travel to a Toastmasters meeting. And just imagine, very soon, dozens of people will experience Toastmasters for the first time in the comfort of their own homes, where they haven't experienced any such thing before. And I believe that's something worth doing. Similarly, we are a very, very connected community. Just like the autism drive, several of our members are actually uh, putting on initiatives to actually help the poor and the needy in these times. And why does it come easy to us? Because we are already so well connected. We are so close to each other. We know each other. We can work with each other. Trust me, those things don't come easy outside of Toastmasters. That's also one under-celebrated aspect of Toastmasters. As for making lemonade, now all our favorite TV shows have stopped shooting. Okay, Netflix has about 12 movies that you can watch out of 12 million, and there are no cinemas that are displaying the latest movies. What do you do with all the screens in your house? Host a Toastmasters meeting. A Toastmasters meeting is the best possible use of screen time ever. Where else will you find such aspirational ideas, such exchange of stories, such creativity, such inclusiveness, such tolerance for each other's point of view. And trust me, it's the best use of any screen. You can broadcast it on your LCD, you can broadcast it on your cell phones, and Zoom enables that. It makes it very easy to broadcast Toastmasters meetings across the world. I happen to work with an organization called the Citizen Foundation, which aims to provide quality education to underprivileged children. And I'm stunned at how parallel that is to the Toastmasters cause, because ultimately, we also aim to enlighten humanity through our traits of tolerance, through our traits of communication, through our traits of working together. And no, nobody's implying that without Toastmasters, humanity is in the dark, but only Toastmasters know what it means to be a Toastmaster. And Toastmasters is not a building. Toastmasters is not an organization. Toastmasters is not a huge head office in Colorado, which I never went to, which I couldn't go to because guess what? I didn't get the visa. So perhaps I'll never go to that. But Toastmasters is each one of us, actually. Toastmasters is people. It's not a structure. And that's what makes Toastmasters unique. And speaking of lemonade, guess what? I just delivered the first project in level 4 of Visionary Communication Pathways. Shout out to my evaluator. That's what you call making lemonade. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Talha. Thank you very much for your wonderful, inspiring words. Toastmasters is people. That's something that we realize every now and then. But the way you mentioned that, the way you build up that to that one sentence was magnificent. Words matter. I mean, which from all of your speech, from all of Talha's speech, comes the message that words matter. Talha spoke about leadership, spoke about success. On the other hand, he spoke also about understanding and active listening. Toastmasters skills is like life skills. So what we learn in Toastmasters, we immediately can apply in life, and also the other way around, both in regular times and in exceptional times like these days. Well, I keep learning that every day. All of these things, active listening, understanding, as much as I learn to support those who I love most every day. And our next speaker will speak more about supporting others. Longtime Toastmaster and currently Vice President of Education at Chiltern Speakers, New London in the United Kingdom, Adrian Lane has spent the last 2 years driving his club's online transition. He introduced Zoom technology to his club to offer in-depth remote training to members on Pathways and EasySpeak. This helped to drive diversity in membership, enable new members to get up to speed quickly, and embed the ethos of online accessibility for every member's learning journey. Adrian ensures that his club is ahead of the curve, leading, not following, and always looking to improve, always thinking one step ahead. He is famous for implementing dynamic solutions, especially under huge time pressure. He is regarded as an innovator, leader, and loves a challenge. At the time of need, during the COVID-19 outbreak, Adrian, along with area director Diane Richardson, ran one of the first Zoom test meetings in District 91, and since then has facilitated the transition from in-person club meetings to Zoom for various clubs in the District 91, focusing on not just working technology, but how meeting roles can be carried out effectively within the confines of Zoom and one's own home. Adrian says of himself, "I like to try new things, to bring together the collective expertise and to see what works. My signature approach is to try 5 things, pick the best, and learn an enormous amount in the process." Adrian joins us today from his home studio in rural England to share his passion for supporting each other in a challenging time. Adrian, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Piotr. We probably have one of the most diverse memberships of any volunteer organisation in the world. Our members come from every corner of the population, but everyone is on their own individual journey, be that down a 6-lane American highway or a winding mountain pass in Tibet. It is this diversity that allows us to share and to adapt, but most importantly, to learn. No more so than now, when COVID-19 has changed our lives in a way that probably a Hollywood blockbuster couldn't even come close. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, members of my club, today let's have a look at some of the ways our lives have changed, the barriers to change, and the best timings to implement these changes. But before we look at how we support each other, let's ask ourselves a few questions. How well do you know your fellow Toastmasters? I was asked to write an introduction for myself for this webinar. I started putting some words together and I thought, I know my Toastmaster in my club. Let's get our VP PR, Carolyn, to help me write it. I pinged some words over, she pinged back the introduction, job done. So let's look at other people in the club. Is the person who attended regular as clockwork at every meeting now actually a key worker in a hospital or a supermarket, working exhaustive hours, battling with masks, screens, aprons and gloves, fearing that everybody they meet could make them ill? Have they really got the energy or the inclination to come home and prepare a speech about leadership style? Is the business traveller who popped into your meetings every now and again now sat at home in front of a computer all day? Have they got so much spare time that a Toastmasters meeting would actually be exactly what they need? The opportunity to continue meeting Toastmasters will be a welcome relief for some, but for the others, it's the last thing on their mind. But in an instant, it can change. It could reverse. Nearly 7 weeks ago, our area, led by Chiltern speakers, held a Saturday morning test session with the sole purpose of working out how to get an online format up and running quickly. A few key technically able people in the club came together to lead this online revolution. I use the word technically very loosely. We actually didn't have a clue. If your club doesn't have the skills, now a few weeks later on, reach out to those other clubs that are doing it, ask one of them to come and help you, pull those skills in. At that meeting, we had 40 members from our club and from other clubs who equally were looking to us to provide the solutions for them. Within District 91, we experimented together to build knowledge and to learn from each other. If the format works for one member using a mobile phone propped up by a stack of books on a coffee table, then it can work for everybody. It needs to be simple in format and accessible to the non-technical members of the club. During meetings, speech evaluations are the backbone of Pathways Learning. Members may need help to get PDF forms backwards and forwards. In the old days, when we met face to face, we could bring the paperwork, hand it over. How do we do that? In our first meetings, people came up, turned up, and the question was, where's my evaluation form? The speaker said, oh yeah, I forgot. So this needs to be done well in advance of the meeting. The prospect of actually downloading and attaching a PDF could actually be the reason why a member cancels a speaking slot or even cancels an evaluation slot. Cut down the meetings, make them shorter. Make them shorter than a normal meeting. Maybe have one less speech. You can have too much of a good thing. So the previous weekend, 3 of us spent all day personally ringing every single member of our club and explaining what we were doing. We were going to go from face-to-face to online. And most importantly, listening to their individual situations and concerns. We distinguished those that wanted to be involved and those who needed more time to organise their lives. Within days, we were up and running with an area contest. We were doing online polls, breakout rooms, visual timing, stuff we never even knew Zoom could do with our very basic package we started off with. And all this from a standing start. The rapid transition from physical meeting room to online has happened in days. I'm Zooming this evening. Fancy a FaceTime? You hear it everywhere. But it's critical to distinguish online is just different from face-to-face. We now have a window in time to learn how to talk to a blank screen, how to imagine virtual laughter, and how to lap up silent applause. The interactions within a business meeting and the social chit-chat are very different. So let's separate these two things. The fact that we're now doing them on a screen and Zoom is actually irrelevant and immaterial. At our club, we use Facebook summaries of meetings, numerous focused WhatsApp groups to build rapport within the club. And of course, we keep ringing and messaging each other. My timely WhatsApp messages are now so acclaimed, that's the word I'm using, maybe not the word used by some of my fellow Toastmasters, that I am no longer the VPE, I am now the nudge master. Our first meeting was a crazy affair, but boy, did we all learn quick. Don't worry about things going wrong. When we fall, we get up stronger. At Chiltern, we have test sessions to try out new ideas, small groups and even one-to-ones to help people with lighting, camera angles and audio. We now have a different Toastmaster, a different timer, and critically, a different Zoom master at every meeting. However, things don't remain the same. Constantly reach out to your members. Yesterday could have been the day their world turned upside down. As I found out joining Chun-Li Club in Taiwan, we now have the opportunity to grasp new learnings, meet new people, as the Toastmasters world is now truly worldwide. So I encourage you, take this message back to your districts, your divisions, your areas, your clubs, but most importantly, to your members. Develop a simple format that works and encourage everyone to practice their roles in advance. The comfort of meeting old friends, listening to diverse speeches is exactly the best way to relax and unwind, to bring back some sort of normality. Until, once again, we can meet face to face. Piotr.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Thank you for this inspiration. Well, we are slowly going towards the end of the session. We learned so much from our panelists today. Let me just recap a few thoughts from all of them. We learned that with thousands of clubs changing from meeting face-to-face to meeting online in just a matter of days, we realized that we are able to learn and adjust faster than we think. Thank you, Clarice, for this wonderful inspiration. Regardless of how hard it may be, the same things remain important, and we keep reinforcing them both in Toastmasters and back at our homes. Thank you, Talha, for this inspiration. And for you, Adrian, well, it always takes a leader to support the community in hard times when the change comes and the new ways of working must be developed. Thank you, Adrian, for being a role model. We can learn so much from you. Thank you for that. Now, I'd like to invite back Kate and the World Headquarters team, who will have gathered questions from the QA panel that were submitted during the webinar, and selected questions. Some of them will be shared with the overall group. Kate Wingrove will read these questions to the team, who can work together to answer the questions. Kate, over to you.
Hi, Piotr. Thank you so much. Thank you to our wonderful moderator. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. This has been just a wonderful time to spend together. And as Piotr mentioned, we do have some time for questions. So thank you to all of you who have already been submitting your questions through our Q&A feature. I'm going to start off with Clarice. Clarice, this question for you is from Ino Abena. And Ino wants to know, how can you use the chat feature to send in evaluation forms?
Well, you can, through the chat feature, evaluation form for speeches, there isn't a way to actually send it to the speaker that I'm aware of. What I was referring to was the individual feedback to a speaker that you could send as a private message. There are, in terms of sending an evaluation, the way how several of our clubs do it, some of them do it the old-fashioned way, well, previous old-fashioned way, which is doing it on paper and then scanning the evaluation and sending it as an email to the speaker after the meeting. The other way is there are some platforms where you could actually complete online an evaluation form, and it doesn't look like a regular form, but you could send it through the internet, real time, right immediately after the meeting. So there are different ways to be able to do that.
Perfect, thank you. So some options outside of our Zoom platform that we can take advantage of. Fantastic. Talha, this question is for you. This question is from Juan Velasquez, and Juan wants to know, how do you follow up with guests to sell membership in our clubs with these distancing challenges that we have right now? What recommendations do you have for that?
Okay, very interesting, and thanks for the question. Well, the follow-up remains largely the same because, for lack of a better word, we hound them back on their WhatsApps and on Facebook numbers. You know, you attended the meeting, we loved it, you're such a great speaker. But the method of selling the platform certainly has changed, because now we can sell to them that, you know, wherever you are, whichever city you are, wherever in the world you are, you can attend our meeting. And that, I feel, should be very effective, because the same people who complained about having to commute to meetings and incurring costs and time doing that, now that objection has been removed. And that results in one of two outcomes. Either you convert those guests into members, or at least they start thinking about it, or they have to think of a better excuse for next time. But I think it's much easier now in terms of not calling them to the meetings, but the meeting going to them. So I guess it's much easier sell, theoretically at least.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And I do think there's something beneficial about giving ourselves an opportunity to practice having online meetings in a lower stakes environment, so we can start developing our skills with our safe, supportive club environment and get better at it, so that if we have to do it at work, hopefully we're a little bit more comfortable with it. All right, thank you so much. Our next question is for Adrian. Adrian, this question is from Roberta Rogers, and Roberta wants to know, how do you show appreciation after a presenter has spoken in this virtual online meeting platform?
Yeah, we do that in a number of ways. The most obvious one is the mad waving, and we have practice sessions waving. And at the Taiwanese club I went to, they actually spent a few minutes at the beginning of the meeting getting everybody to do a number of poses. So they did thoughtful, and they did surprised, and then they took screenshots and then they emailed them round afterwards. So actually getting the visual going, clapping, without turning the microphones on is a really effective way of doing it.
Fantastic. So pulling in more of that visual component, since we can still see each other, is a great way for us to still show our appreciation and interact with one another. Fantastic. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? Piotr, this question is for you. And what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm seeing in the chat that some people are not able to hear me. So I'm going to tell you the question and I'll ask you to repeat the question so that everybody can still hear it. So this question has come in from a number of different people, and I specifically wanted to ask you about it because you were called out as doing it exceptionally well. How do you maintain eye contact in a virtual meeting? And in particular, when you were doing your introductions for everybody, it seemed like you were doing a really good job of maintaining that.
All right, thank you very much, Kate. So the question is, how do I maintain eye contact? Well, long story short, it's not very much different than in a regular meeting. I look directly at this little point here, the camera, so that because I'm here for you, it's not that you are here for me. It's my kind of obligation towards you to look in your eyes. So the disadvantage is obviously that I don't see you. I cannot have a real one-to-one eye contact. So I miss that. I miss the feedback from you. But that's something that it's on one hand, it's kind of a shortcoming of online meetings, of meeting online, of speaking online to you. But on the other hand, well, where else I could meet 1,000 people in one room and have a direct eye contact all the time with all of them. So that's what I do. I just looked at the camera.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Clarice, I'm going to come back around to you with this next question. This is from Meryl Davies. And Meryl was wondering, you mentioned that you used to do the drum roll for Best Speaker and you had some different noisemakers that you use now instead. What kind of noisemakers are those, and where do you get them from?
Well, I've used, and I've heard also, but I've used it personally for my clubs by just doing a simple Google search. And some of these sounds I actually have found on YouTube. They are sounds like the drum roll. There are some other funny sounds that you may want to do, like a blowhorn, if you want to do that. Others have to do when I did an orientation for one of my clubs, kind of showed them how to do the gallery view, and we had everyone stacked up, and I played the Brady Bunch music theme. And so, and all I did was just Google it. So the power of technology and Google searches, you will be amazed as to what you will find. But before you try it, practice doing it, because sometimes you have to make sure that you're sharing your sound to the computer, but always practice. You can have a lot of fun with technology to add some levity and fun to the meeting.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I saw several of our panelists laugh when we talked about the Brady Bunch, so that was fantastic. I got a good chuckle myself. All right, Talha, this next question is for you. This is from Deborah McAdams. And Deborah was saying something that we may deal with later on is members who are totally ready to go back to in-person meetings, as well as members who are not so ready to go back to in-person meetings. So what do you recommend about accommodating in-person and virtual meetings in the future?
Okay, yes, I see that happening. I see that happening. Many people will be reluctant to go back. And I think we will have no alternative but to adapt, because In the intervening time, what has changed is that we've gotten so good at using Zoom and other online meeting platforms. At least I like to think so. And that didn't used to be the case before. So what I foresee, even from the perspective of my home club and other clubs, is that there will be people who will be physically attending the meeting, and there will be a laptop broadcasting the meeting or to attendees on Zoom. And that laptop can be connected to a projector, or else everybody can be, or the table topic speaker or the evaluator can speak from their homes, and that will be broadcast to everyone. I see that as very doable. It's very easy. And it's up to the executive committee of a club to actually allow online attendance. So I see absolutely no hurdles. The only difference is that previously this used to be a very far-fetched, drastic option. We used it for guest speakers or chief guests to deliver their addresses from across the globe. Now perhaps we will have to use it to actually enable Toastmasters to attend our meetings.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we're almost using right now as our testing period for being able to engage in both in-person and virtual meetings later on. I think that's pretty cool. Adrian, this next question is for you. Thomas Gore said you mentioned lighting in particular when you were speaking and wanted to know what additional tips you have about setting up your lighting correctly, especially when you need to do some of those tweaks. What do you go about doing to figure that all out?
Number one is think about where you sit. A lot of people actually sit at a desk facing a wall. And of course, there's no light in front of you. So the real trick is to spin the desk around and put your back to the wall so that the lighting's in front of you. One of my local clubs has got a guy with a couple of soft boxes. So I managed to acquire a couple of them, and they're sat back up here, bright lights shining in my face. I've got about 6 lights on in this room. That's probably a bit of overkill, I suspect. The green screen's hiding. So my advice would be turn around into the room and just get some table lamps, put them in the opposite corner in front of you, and try and have them out at the sides, not just in front of you, so you don't get the shadows on your face.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I might need to take some of your lighting tips for this next one, won't I? All right, Piotr, this question is for you. This is from Michelle Botros, and Michelle is wondering, how do we attract our members to join our online meetings if perhaps they're a little bit tired of having attended online meetings all day long already for work? How can we lure them in to join us?
Oh my goodness, Kate, this is a wonderful question. Thank you very much, because I'm suffering from exactly the same problem. Yeah, so I'm starting my workday at, let's say, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. and I'm having a really almost every day, like series of meetings until late afternoon. And then I'm supposed to sit in another meeting, Toastmasters meeting, and do some speaking, do some role. How do I motivate myself? Well, I think it's a very simple thing. It's exactly the same thing what motivates me to go to the Toastmasters meeting in a regular times. It's just a different thing. I speak there about different things. The corporate meetings are completely different things, yeah, than the Toastmasters meeting. That's why I go to a Toastmaster meeting in a regular time, for a face-to-face meeting, for an in-person meeting, just to relax, to unwind, to do something else, to kind of, stand on my on the other leg. And that's exactly the same reason why I'm joining online meetings, just to do something totally different, just to do something totally different than my regular work meetings. And that's exactly the way I encourage others to join. That's one of the main reasons why this might work.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So our Toastmasters online meetings are satisfying a different portion of our needs than the online meetings that we're doing for work. All right, we are just about at the end of our time, and I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. So a huge thank you again to our fantastic moderator, Piotr. Thank you for guiding us through this hour. To our panelists, Clarice, Talha, Adrian, thank you so much for spending this time with us and for sharing your stories with us. This was so wonderful. And to all of our attendees, thank you for investing the time with us today, for spending this hour with us, for your wonderful questions. I had such a lovely time. I hope that all of you did as well. Wishing you all the best, and we'll see you around. Have a wonderful rest of your day.